Good evening.
Good
And
evening.
welcome to Momentous Live, episode 48, where we won't be talking about trucker convoys or Joe Rogan and Spotify, but we'll be talking about lots of other fun stuff. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm William Silver, and below me is...
It's me, Tasia Custodi, and beside me is...
Hi, I'm Gray Williams, and I don't know anything about truckers.
So, here we go. We got
Moving
lots of
right
other
along.
things to talk about. But first, please check us out at momentous.tv on facebook.com/momentous.tv, twitter.com/momentous.tv, instagram.com/momentous.tv, and on YouTube, search for my name, and you can find a couple of different Momentous playlists there. Please like, subscribe, smash all those buttons, smash your fist on the table, punch a
Smash
wall.
your TV.
I don't know what's wrong with me today, but let's get into
You've gone full Hulk, and it's worrisome.
Got very violent about something.
Have never seen you like this before.
I just, it's the anticipation of Punxsutawney Phil tomorrow morning, February 2nd. Let's just get this over with, shall we?
Yeah.
Right, where he said to me, it's Groundhog Day, and I said again.
Exactly. Can you
I think
imagine?
that should be part of your regular spiel, like punch that bell, punch your friend, smash everything.
Slappy Pappy?
I'm gonna steal that.
All right, maybe I'm just all angry because Wordle has been bought by the New York Times. Like, this is why we can't have good things. I mean,
Literal sellout. A literal sellout.
which, you don't want to
Wouldn't
be
you?
You don't want to begrudge anyone like getting their payday because it's a great little indie story especially just in the light of all the copycat apps that showed up on both the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store. But so the hit word guessing game will join the Times' suite of daily puzzle titles. Apparently, low six figures, which is not too shabby. I'm not sure how much time it took Josh Wordle to build it, but there's hope for us all. Are you all still playing Wordle? Tasia?
I have a question.
Okay.
I feel like, how did this happen so quickly? Because there was like a switch for me on social media where last week, or maybe it was like a week and a half ago, every single person was posting about it. Like, I had never heard of it before then. And it's I hear about it and New York Times buys it.
That's what happens when you miss a couple of shows, Dave.
I know. But it's
We've
like, I
been
don't
all Wordle
understand.
all the time here.
Apparently, the
We
last
had
2
Wordle,
weeks have been
Letteral,
Wordle.
Absurdle, and now New York Timesal. Bye-bye.
So I do want to give a bit of a shout out. A good friend of mine, John, he's at Volkswagen, managed to get his Wordle in one today. So that's congratulations to you. I know for myself, I'm not playing much anymore. I kind of I've never failed a Wordle. So I felt like perhaps I was waiting for the next level of challenge, which the New York Times is presenting, because now there is going to hopefully be a subscription barrier, which will give me the level of challenge that I'm looking for. Initially going to be free. That's just, oh God, that language, right? Initially. Because, it's the sort of Damocles hanging over every Wordle. Like, is this my last?
I'm waiting for the microtransactions where you can put different hats on them, or they can do different dances or something.
Or
I'd like to buy a vowel.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that, Greg?
I'd like to buy a vowel.
Yeah, exactly. Get some virtual van away. Now, New York Times bought beloved review site The Wirecutter a couple of years ago, and again promptly put it behind not a paywall but a free account wall. So you have to have a New York Times account, in which case they've got your info and they can start spamming you about signing up for the New York Times. I mean, at least you don't have to pay to access the Wirecutter anymore, but it's just like that extra little barrier. So let's see how it goes with Wordle. If they're going to eventually make people have a free New York Times account to play just to build their list, because New York Times is still doing pretty well, despite various challenges over the last few years. And if they go full, I don't know. You can't say the R word anymore. But is it Tropic Thunder? Yeah, there's a reference there, but I think it would really sour a lot of people on the game if they started trying to extract money, because this is one of these, pure moments of internet I don't know, happiness that people have been enjoying for weeks and weeks, and as more people are discovering it, and like, what are all those strange little squares appearing? Yeah. Anyway, so fingers crossed. Anything to add before we move on, guys? That's our little bit of follow up. Or are we on?
Oh,
So,
actually, so I just received a message from a friend who's watching. Aaron, hello. There is Loodle, which is a lewd daily word game. So we've really, Rule 34, we're here. So it looks like Wordle, has found its niche. So I think that's a good place for us to wrap on that story right there.
in Loodle, did they cut it down from 5 letters to 4? All right. So speaking of acquisitions, this was right in the Gray Williams wheelhouse. Sony is acquiring Bungie, creators of Destiny, also Destiny 2, in a $3.6 billion deal. Destiny 2 will remain multi-platform, Bungie says. So rather than me going on about this, let's just go straight to momentous Destiny 2 correspondent Gray Williams for the basics on this and maybe a little perspective.
Yeah, so I mean, just in time, because I've actually started doing a Destiny-themed sleeves. There's the one piece of that tattoo, which is the hunter emblem.
Hard to see with the harsh glare of your very white skin.
I've got the ghost from Destiny. So here's the interesting thing. Destiny is not worth $3.6 billion. But what is, I think, is the next generation IP that's going to come with this. Sony has looked at quite a few different studios in the past, and they've actually been able to keep fairly decent independent relations with the studios under their control. Bungie, when they first were acquired by Microsoft, much to the chagrin of a lot of Mac lovers out there, they were working on Halo for the Mac, and Halo obviously became like this cultural icon that is ensconced into Xbox and now Windows gaming life. When they decided that they didn't want to do it anymore, which I think, for a lot of studios, you kind of get to that point where you're like, is this all we've got to offer? They handed that off to 343, who's currently still working under the Microsoft umbrella, creating Halo properties. The most recent Halo game, Halo Infinite, has come out, and it's available on Game Pass, so you can try that out for a relatively low cost. I just downloaded the campaign for Halo. But Bungie went off, and they joined Activision Blizzard, and they created Destiny underneath that banner. And Activision gave them a lot of things. They gave them some really great marketing dollars. They gave them much needed funding to get the game done. But it seemed like Bungie was always laboring under that yoke. There were clearly some decisions that you could hear from the way that the developers talked that it never really fit. It was just, it's one of those jackets that was a little too tight. And so, 3 years ago, they bought themselves out of Activision. And they released Forsaken, which was the expansion at the time. We've had Shadowkeep and Beyond Light since then. And they've been really great expansions. But there have been some microtransactions that have been involved. And those were, you could say, 99% cosmetic. There were some gameplay altering ones that you could get where, you'd buy a thing for silver, which is their currency in game. And it would give you a faster drop rate on materials you use in the game. Nothing very, very serious. Everyone was worried that it was going to go in this big pay-to-win sort of thing, and it never happened. But you could also tell that the support that they got when they were creating the last things under Activision, which was the Forsaken expansion, they were assisted by a number of different studios. And so what we're hearing from Bungie right now is this will immediately allow them to expand their team to deliver the kind of experience that they want to with Destiny 2. But the unsaid part of this really is the next generation IP, Matter, that they're working on. And so we've got at the very least, another 3 years of Destiny 2, which as a Destiny fan is very exciting. Seeing how, Matter works into this universe, if it does at all, is going to be fascinating. But this is a really exciting thing for anybody that likes the game and loves the way that Bungie creates games, which is something that I do.
So you mentioned the expansion of the IP, and there is talk of potential TV series, movies. One thing that I think is interesting, this came up in a discussion with friends of the show, Jamie, Dave, and Marco over the weekend, I believe, that do you all remember how much Disney paid for Lucasfilm? It was
No.
$4 billion.
Ooh.
Bungie being bought for 3.6. So there seems like there's like is Bungie really worth almost as much as Lucasfilm? Is it maybe somewhat inflated, and Disney got Lucasfilm for a real good deal there? Because those seem awfully close for the amount of IP contained in each of those studios.
Well, given the nature of Star Wars at the time, I think Star Wars wasn't really at a high point. We hadn't had the sequels yet, which some people don't like, but things like the Clone Wars, Rebels, those came out of that. And I think that's almost, looking forwards, Disney was looking at it going, there's a universe here. Lucasfilm isn't really able to bring it to life themselves. George, as creative as he is, I think it was starting to suffer under the weight of just his vision. When you take a look at guys like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, what they've been able to do with that. So this may be one of those things where there are some very, very creative people at Bungie. The lore and the story and everything that goes along with Destiny is really, really cool. But when you take a look at the core thing that Bungie does well, they've always done this well, and it goes back to Halo. They call it 20 seconds of action. And this, you can find this in their games like Oni and a few others as well. But it was this core gameplay loop where you get in, you're engaged by the game, that action is high-paced for 20 seconds, and it gives you a second to breathe. And it's something that they've always done well. It's very easy to do in a scripted game like Halo. And even in their multiplayer, there's those engagements where win or lose, it's 20 seconds and you can move on. And this drop-in cooperative game that is Destiny, much, much harder to do, just with the world being shared with other players. But they've really made it work. And so I think it's that kind of thinking, that kind of design ethos that has made the game so compelling, and I think it makes this thing so compelling for Sony as well. Looking at Activision, they've got Call of Duty, which is just a juggernaut. It's like your EA Maddens and your NHLs. People in FIFA, people just come back and play it every year. And so I think Sony's looking at that and going, this is a brick in our house that is missing, and I think Bungie fills that role for them.
The question is, how long until we get Destiny theme park?
I would go. I would be there in a heartbeat.
Exactly. So all those people out there, all you developers out there, theme park developers, you've got at least one customer right here. All right. So moving on for just another quick hit. This is another that falls squarely in gray territory here, but the dream is dead. Diem, formerly Libra.
Yeah.
Facebook, now Meta's cryptocurrency project, which they started a couple of years ago, was supposed to be a stable coin tied to the value of a basket of currencies, a nice worldwide crypto that we could use, shepherded by the loving embrace of the Libra Corporation, sponsored by Facebook, just faced one hurdle after another from various governments, including the US government, and has now just selling off the remaining assets for $200 million.
Yep.
Tasha, are you a little sad because of that?
Oh,
we cannot hear you.
Oh boy.
was that? Did you get Zuckerberg? Is that what happened? They were cutting off.
I did.
Because here, release the Kraken. Here comes Tasha's cake.
It's because the animals are making noise. So I was like, I'm just gonna mute myself. How long have I been in this pandemic and I can't figure out if I'm on mute?
It's all of us.
Exactly. Yes, I'm just so crushed. Poor Zuckerberg. Poor Zuck.
Poor Zucks. Yeah.
Okay.
Pour out some liquor.
All right. Greg, give us a quick take and let's move on.
You know what? Tasha nailed it. It's just like, it couldn't have happened to a nicer group.
I mean, just chef's kiss.
What's the line from Step Brothers? Like, he just has a face I want to punch.
Oh.
Like,
now, to be fair, it would have been something that may have been tied into their metaverse aspirations quite nicely to have an in-world currency, so to speak, just like you have in-game currencies and all sorts of other platforms. It's just that Facebook has gotten so big, with 3 billion monthly active users, and Instagram, and WhatsApp, and Oculus, all on top of that. So it's to take on other large-scale projects that kind of start bumping into government territory when, like currencies, something a bit more centralized and then therefore an easier target for institutions like governments. Unlike decentralized options like Bitcoin, Ether, and all of the other projects that are out there, it was just maybe too much of an easy target. They kind of bit off more than they can chew. So maybe that's a good thing. Just like central bank digital currencies that are going to be coming from various countries, including the People's Republic of China. Like those are technically crypto in some sense, but will have a lot of strings attached. And
Cryptish.
Cryptish and be easily controlled, manipulated by government. So how much better is that really for the average people trying to live the crypto dream?
Didn't some American bank just announce a cryptocurrency, or that they're in development of a cryptocurrency? Or
Probably.
Yeah.
Would you use it? Probably not. Here's the thing, and you were mentioning this, like tying into the metaverse applications. It's even better that this is dead, because the last thing that I want is for this Facebook control part of the metaverse to be using a Facebook currency. I can't think of anything more distasteful, personally.
Do you know what it reminds me of is when the US government started freaking out about World of Warcraft, and now how the currency was becoming a real currency, because people were exchanging the currency for money. And it was starting to get to be a bit of a problem, so they cracked down on that. But
they weren't necessarily wrong there, though, because Steve Bannon actually made his fortune in World of Warcraft gold mines. So basically using extremely cheap, almost slave labor in China to play this game, get the currency in game, and then sell that currency back to players. It's looking at this type of thing and seeing that type of thing, you can see why regulators would want to step in on something like that. And so gamifying that was I guess it was monetizing gaming, not gamifying money. But in any case,
But that's what it totally reminded me of. Is this this is just getting to be too big almost.
Yeah, and it's hard when companies get to a certain size, and you get into the quote unquote monopoly territory, although they're not technically. It's just you have such a big target on your back. So if you have other large aspirations and ambitions, it's almost like you have to divest of some of your other divisions before you'll be allowed by various governments that regulate you to be able to move on. So people have talked about in the States about unrolling or unraveling the Instagram acquisition, which I think that's 10 years ago. You can't go back that far. That would put such a chill on the business climate there. WhatsApp too, again, Instagram was $1 billion, deal of the century. WhatsApp, $19 billion. But so if they wanted to do something else on a large scale, they might have to divest of one, or if not both of those things, which might be good in some ways. And then there's Oculus as well, which it makes me crazy that they renamed the Oculus Quest, one of the coolest names ever, to the Meta Quest. Like, did they not understand their own branding? Like, Meta is the parent company.
No, they don't.
Meta has Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Oculus, but now you don't call it Meta Messenger. Why are you calling it Meta Quest? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm sorry.
Just call it Meta Quest and get it over with.
I actually speak to that directly, and it is that they don't understand their brand. Oculus does have better brand recognition than quite a few of Facebook's internal brands, and so it actually has a higher brand recognition than virtual reality as a term. So this really is just like hand on the pistol and just pulling the triggers. It's pointing at your foot. It's embarrassing actually how they handled it. But they are looking at Meta to encapsulate their next step forward. Yeah. So I
think it's a signal, though.
We will see Meta Messenger at some point.
Yeah, but I think it's definitely sending a signal. Like if they're saying, okay, we're calling the Quest. The Quest 2, the Meta Quest, and not the Oculus, that's sending a signal that's where they're going hard into Metaverse, right? So, sure. Anyway, let's move on to the real world. How about we talk trucks?
Yeah.
Ford puts the bro into Bronco. Here we go. 2022 Ford Bronco Raptor brings monster energy and off-road chops. This is just a little palate cleanser because, we talk about EVs so much, and we're going to talk about EVs again in a moment. But here is a 4x4 caffeinated energy drink come to life. So this is pure off-roader. Now, the question here is, and I'm gonna throw to Teja on this here because you've got certain thoughts on vehicles, some of which more sporty, but aggressive, like the Corvette and whatnot. Do you think that a vehicle like the Ford Bronco, which in certain configurations is really meant for off-roading, crawling, and stuff like that, is that best suited in your mind to a traditional internal combustion engine versus an EV? Because they're experimenting with EVs. We've talked about a few of them in this, for off-roading. But whether it's things like range, or perhaps the vulnerability of the battery platform at the bottom, should you get a puncture or something like that. I mean, do you think that it's kind of a waste of time for companies to keep pumping out gas engine off-roaders, or is this going to be one of the last bastions of the internal combustion engine?
I don't think it's a waste of time at all. I feel like we've talked about this before in terms of like some people just want that, like, they want the sound of an engine.
Sorry, come again?
That's the sound of an engine, for those of you wondering what that sounds like.
Tej, I've clearly never been in a vehicle before.
It's a real roar, you know what I mean?
Okay. Can you start that up? What the heck's wrong with this?
If the car sounds like that, run. Something's about to happen.
Yeah, I have to look at your car.
Time for an Italian
Seriously.
tune-up, I think.
But I just think it'd be, if you guys actually picture like a crazy off-roading vehicle and like you're going on like bumps and there's dust everywhere and there's stuff going on and it's silent otherwise. I don't know, like I think it's just really
That's a good point.
It's like we talked about the trucks and like people want a Ford F-150 that sounds like a Ford F-150.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So I think for something like this, especially because of the Bronco got like that whole glow up a couple years ago, like she came back fierce and was like, OJ who? No, boo. You know what I mean? So now
OJ who?
Wow, pull quote right there.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think it's one of the last ones, like especially if you are somebody that does off-roading and you do this kind of more extreme adventure thing, a lot of times you're going to places where like there's not going to be a charger for you available right now, at least like somewhere out in the middle of the desert. So, whereas a lot of these places, there are gas stations just on the outskirt before you get to the park or whatever, right? So it's until that kind of changes, but I do feel like a lot of it is just like that feeling of muscle, that feeling of power, and you kind of want that a little bit.
So posing the question to everyone here, one of the things that we're starting to see in virtual reality is the idea of force feedback and sound actually being used to give you that more visceral feeling. Now, we've seen cars that have speakers attached to them, but what if we were to take this in a different direction? And you were to look at things like low frequency emitters that are actually like in the seats, or something that gives you a bit of rumble in the steering wheel,
like D-box in the theater.
D-box.
Yeah, would that do we think that would be satisfying? Should we call Ford and be like, hey, for your EV version of the Bronco, throw some subs in the seat,
or just get a rumble controller like an Xbox or a PlayStation. Like,
it sounds like a cat, apparently.
yes.
The dual shock Bronco, I like it.
Yeah.
So, Gray, now you don't, as far as I know, you don't do a ton of like off-roading to this extent, but you do like to go camping. Now, when you're thinking about your next vehicle, are you comfortable, because you've been talking about going EV for your next, are you comfortable with that for camping, or would you rather have the, have the surety of easy refueling with a gasoline powered vehicle? I'm not sure exactly how far you go out.
Well, so kind of taking a look at it, we've got a solar generator already, and we've got a 100-watt panel that we take with us that can charge that pretty quickly. And so looking at that and thinking, additional solar panels, maybe additional solar generators, I actually feel more confident with that than I do with a gasoline engine, especially getting up into the mountains in BC, where you can go, hundreds of kilometers without actually running into a filling station. So, for us looking at this, I've been talking about the Rivian, and that's kind of still where my heart lies. So, and that's the thing, is just hydrocarbons. I can't do another ICE engine. Just no internal combustion, no more gas. I got to step away. And it's the rumble and the sound. I'll turn up some metal. We'll do it that way.
All right. Well, speaking of EVs, there are some new options coming to the marketplace. I think we may have spoken about this one almost a year ago, but now we've got some pricing coming and official kickoff. Kia, of all makers, who has been releasing EVs for a number of years now, almost like since 2014, 2015, including the Niro EV and the Soul EV. Finally officially launching the EV6, which is the first of, I believe, 8 total. I think there's 7 additional EVs that Kia is launching in the next 5 years. They're going all in. And as some of you may know, Kia traditionally hasn't had a lot of prestige as a brand. They're kind of like, they started off like Hyundai was in 1986, right? Like, what are these, some relatively obscure Korean automaker, obscure to us. They've been around, as a company for like 100 years or so, as far as I recall. But, they're 35% owned by Hyundai. I think there's been some technology sharing there. And every year they've just been iterating. And I was never that interested in buying a Kia like regular car. People had mixed results with them, but their reliability ratings continued to improve over time. Again, they saw where things were going with EV. Hyundai was doing so as well, and I think, like I said, some sharing going on there. But I'm just going to remind you of what the EV6 looks like here. And this is launching in the in US and Canada. I think the US prices we're talking the mid 40K, and this is unlike any Kia that you've ever seen before. And the reviews are coming back quite positive. Some might have some thoughts about the rear end. There's some Prius vibes there, but the front end is hard to argue with as being a pretty cool looking car. And it's part of the big Kia rebrand that happened. The new logo, and they've got designers in from Audi and BMW. They've been updating all of their body styles over the last number of years, working on the technology as well. Will, thoughts on this, being a Beamer guy yourself traditionally?
Well, I mean, I've said I like the new logo, but this is just a general gripe because this is what the show's for, right? General gripes.
Just
So,
Yes.
not
all the
Lieutenant
gripes.
Gripes or Captain Gripes, but general
Uh-huh.
gripes. So, my general gripe is, especially with like bigger SUVs or bigger sport utility vehicles, is the small windows in the back. It drives me bonkers. I would never buy one with such a small window. It's just, I'm not on board for that. I have some interest in some of these things. Land Rovers, but I think the new Discovery has a tiny window there, and I love Land Rover. But there's a bunch of car brands. The Nissan Rogue. It's like, what is this, Blade Runner? Do you just have cameras in the back and it's like metal slits that are the rear window? Like, what is this? Like a Lotus Esprit from James Bond? I mean, it's, you can't see out of the back of that thing. Sorry, that's some deep cut references, I think. But yeah, so I can't get on board with it. It looks pretty nice from the front, but I can't get on board on the small window back. That just drives me nuts. I love the lights. The rear lights are cool, but yeah, I don't know if this is a safety thing in terms of having a bigger, more metal in the back or what it is, but I can't get behind the small windows.
All right.
General
Duly
rants.
noted.
There we go.
So yeah, $40,900 is US dollars is the starting price. So you can add another 10K to that for Canada, roughly. A variety of trim levels. You start pushing 70K for the GT line. Range, again, we're pushing 400 kilometers on these. Again, depending on the trim level, you can qualify for the rebates at various government levels in Canada and the United States. Whereas with a lot of the Teslas, especially in the States, you can't get the rebates anymore because they're all used up for the Teslas anyway. In Canada, a lot of the Teslas are above the 50K mark, and so you can't qualify for the rebates there. So even though these aren't exactly cheap, with the various rebates, they do bring things down to earth a little bit. So the companion to this, which came out a couple months ago, is the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which again is a sort of a small-ish crossover. Again, very good reviews, very different sort of styling than people kind of would typically expect from Hyundai. And Will, what's your thoughts on how this one looks? I mean, the front end is almost Dodge Challenger vibes with that kind of slit and the lights along there.
It looks a little generic, if I'm being honest. It's also
Mhm.
got, I know this is a bit of a leap, but it's got some PT Cruiser vibes or something from the side. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's pretty generic. The other one was a little bit more cutting edge. I think this is a little bit more station wagon and you know, kind of thing. I like the wheels. The wheels are cool. They look like buzzsaws or something.
What about those rectangular headlights, LED headlights? Though those are a bit of a signature mark there.
I do like that people are playing with those things a little bit. I don't know what the replacement costs on some of these things would be, but
Don't ask.
But yeah, I mean, I love them playing with some of these traditional things like headlights and wheel caps and hubcaps and things like that.
Can I ask you to do something? Can you go back up to the picture of the lights just above the final word?
The picture of the lights just above the final word.
And I want you to zoom in, so all you can see is just the light.
Tell me when to stop here.
We are almost there. Next one, I think. That one there, right there. Just zoom in so it's just above the lights. Is it just me?
Oops. Oh, no!
Oh, no. Because
you went into mobile mode.
Yeah, we're zooming in too much.
When you
stand by for content.
This actually looks, and this is purely just done for a joke, but this actually looks like the hallway from Terminator 2 in the hospital. That's all I had for you.
No, that's good. It does.
Right?
I'm squinting hard. Okay.
Yep.
I did all that scrolling for that. Okay.
I did like the back end of the Kia one. I thought that's just the light strip. I thought was very cool. And Will, you actually kind of hit it on the head, which is why the hell do we have a window in the back anyway when we've got cameras that can actually do this? Doesn't it seem a whole lot safer to actually have something that maybe has image recognition rather than relying on your eyes to like make the trip back there? I don't know.
I'd say do one or the other.
Well, yes. you guys, I mean, you raised an interesting point because for reversing, most cars have backup cameras nowadays. And a lot of cars, I believe, including these, at least as options for the higher trim levels, have digital rear view mirrors. So you're not actually limited to what you see optically through the mirror, but they're actually connected to a camera in the back, which can be a little strange at first for people to get used to because you don't have the infinite focus of your eyes optically, with that light bouncing in. You're actually just looking at a camera view there. But that is one way to help solve that issue that you bring up, Will. Tasia, what's your
clutch takes some time to get used to as well. But
say again?
You can figure it out. Putting in a clutch can take some time to get used to, but people have learned how to do it.
Exactly. Tasia, what are your thoughts on these two designs we're seeing again from these kind of like mid-level, about somewhat more affordable, like definitely more affordable than Tesla level for pretty capable long-range EVs, and some of which have the all-wheel drive option, at least in the Kia's case, just like Volkswagen's doing with the higher tiers of the ID4 as well. Practicality-wise and looks-wise, what are your thoughts on these two?
Well, I love the idea of both of them because I think that just like how they're going to, every single year we're going to get better range, prices were going to come down, as more people get them. But I feel like it's always a good thing when we have these other brands coming out with these models. I do think the Kia is a bit pricey for like typically what a Kia brand would be.
Yeah, they're definitely pushing up market.
Yeah, but I also just want to quick PSA for anybody out there. Don't rely on just your backup cam because you might run into somebody in a parking lot. So just make sure you're giving it a check as well, okay? Just a quick little PSA.
Sure. Especially people crawling on their hands and knees. Is that you speaking from experience there, Tej?
I mean,
the case is still pending, so let's not talk about it.
What was that?
Why she was away for a few shows.
That's why we need bail reform laws now.
I did back into a snowbank.
The snowbank had to come though, so it's fine.
It did. That son of a gun came out of nowhere, let me tell you.
All right, Will. So if you want something with a little more visibility out of the back end, can I interest you in a Microlino EV? Almost ready to hit the European streets.
Beautiful.
Look at this. Now, again, we're getting echoes of the BMW Isetta from
Yeah.
the 60s, but unlike the Isetta, which was a three-wheeler, this is actually a four-wheeler. And you can hold two people in this
Look at
thing,
it.
but not much else. Maybe a dog and or a cat in there as well. So technically it's a quadricycle. Yeah, so
cute.
now, Will, you've got two people in your household, and you like, there's lots of the whole thing is practically windows. How would that work for you with your
It's cute. It's interesting. It does look like a death trap on four wheels. I was going to say it can fit two people, but it can't fit your dignity.
Emotional damage.
I know someone's not moving to Europe.
Yeah, throw it down shade.
Yeah.
It does remind me of Mr. Bean and the BMW Isetta. For sure.
Oh no, he had a Mini. He had a
Mini.
Yeah, he had.
Didn't
Austin
he have
Mini,
a front loader? I thought he had a front loader.
I don't think so.
No.
But the music video for Depeche Mode, "Never Let Me Down Again," I believe, featured Dave Gahan, the singer, driving around in an Isetta. 1987, folks.
I just worry about
Keisha
these
was
things.
very young then.
Like one of these things is it's like crumple zone, right? Like
you are the crumple zone.
Yeah, and you are the crumple zone in this. So that would be my concern. It's like all the freedom of a motorcycle without the wind through your hair. I mean, I don't see the appeal to this, but I mean, it's cute, and I like that there's other options and there's other things for people. So I like something that's different, but I don't think I'd be riding one.
Didn't we hear the same concerns about the smart car though? And doesn't it have like a remarkably good crash rating?
Yeah, well, the cage, like the way it's designed with that cage,
Yeah.
It pretty darn good. But again, it's one of those things like, despite what it says on paper, it's like, do you really want to test it out?
I don't want to test the impact resistance of any vehicle, quite frankly. Like that's where
it's also the zone too. Like it's a little bit like motorcycles, because they'd say like motorcycles are like half as likely to get into an accident, but you're twice as likely to die in an accident if you do get into an accident.
like those
it's kind of like a trade-off.
Mm-hmm. And
It's
you're
so
17
cute.
and you're 17 times as likely to get in an accident if you're texting and driving.
But if you're texting on a motorcycle, it is all over. So let's not do that.
You just
You're right,
burst
James.
into flames.
It is cute. So I want to give a little bit of a shout out here.
Before we move out onto the next little shout out, just for those playing at home, the Microlino 2.0, about $15,000 US. Three trim levels with projected ranges of 95 kilometers, 175 kilometers, and 230 kilometers, depending on the battery sizes there. And Tasia, it seems like the consensus is y'all think it's cute, but none of you. This is not going to be your first EV if it ever comes to North America.
Probably not.
No, but I think if I was in Europe, putting around like Florence or somewhere in Italy where parking's a freaking nightmare, and you just want to like get through the streets. I'm so good with car noises, by the way. Like I'm just gonna say.
Now, did they have an amphibious version if you go to Venice?
Oh, too soon. But
Bravo.
like, do you want to go down the highway in one of those things in North
No,
America?
no. What I said was I would
No,
put
I know,
around
I
in
know.
one in a little downtown European city.
I
I
know.
avoided what
That's right.
Tristan's question was.
No, I agree. I'm just saying in general, not just my general rants again.
I'm in America where everybody's got them Ford F-150s.
You could spring
You're
for
gonna
the
go on a
option.
6-lane highway in LA or something.
You could spring for the option where you have a basket for all your fresh pasta.
Up front.
Perfect.
So in France, it's for baguettes. Gray, you wanted to name check someone here.
I did. Electromechanica.
Category.
So Electromechanica, they're here in Vancouver, and it's been interesting because I've been trying to get a hold of these guys for a while. So I'm actually going to put this out to you. I'm going to link you to this later on. I've been trying to take a test drive. Now, if you try to book a test drive right now, despite the fact that they are literally blocks away from me, you can't book a test drive here in Canada. So I'm hoping that maybe I can send you this video because I'm actually, I think I'm interested.
I've seen
Why can't you book a test drive?
It's their online tool won't let me. So these things they're adorable. They're 3 wheels, basically a motorcycle with a cover over top, and it looks phenomenal. And from what I hear, because I know people who've driven them, they're fun. So I want to give it a go. There you go.
Electromechanica, you've been put on notice. This is what it looks like here. We'll just play a little bit. Of course, going by Whole Foods, so that's on brand.
It's cool. It looks like half of a sports car. Like they cut off the back of it.
It looks like the rear end is floating because it's hard to see that.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
it bouncing or is that the camera work?
Yes.
Both.
I've seen some similar vehicles, three-wheelers like this, going over the Second Narrows Bridge in North
I've
Vancouver.
definitely
And
seen
it's
one
like,
of these around.
yeah, wow.
Yeah, there's an open concept three-wheeler that's around. I'm on their mailing list, and they keep asking me to come take a test drive. But this is $18,000, I believe, US, whereas the other one that I was looking at, the open concept one, is something around, I think it's $35,000 to $45,000. Not inexpensive. So, yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
All right, Electromechanica. Local folks, see if any of y'all out there can manage to book a test drive, rub it in Gray's face. Okay. Or put in the good word for Gray. He needs
There you go.
test drive
Thank
love.
you.
All right. So I'm not so sure. This is now one thing that that Tasia has brought up in the past when it as regards certain EVs, especially trucks, is towing capacity. So Airstream is looking to help address that issue by releasing a remote-controlled EV trailer. I'm not sure if I'm understanding this exactly right. Dreamy concepts for escapists from society. Of course, Airstream, the iconic
Obsessed
RV,
with Airstream.
RV brand here. Battery-powered RV with a range of up to so that's a separate thing, 300 miles for an RV, but then they also have the trailer concept as well, which you could tow with your Tesla Model X because you've got $100,000 to burn. Tasia, what's your initial thoughts here? This is from a Thor, e-mobility. I guess there's a collab, so to speak here.
I love it. I just wish it was affordable. It's like when Airstream did a collab with Pottery Barn.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yes, where's my $250,000 because I want one immediately. But it came with pillows. So that's something.
Oh.
Like if you spend this money, you get these pillows. I love this idea though. I love the concept of it. I just want this technology more affordable to the masses, I guess. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it looks like what they're doing here is like when it's under power, it's regenerating the batteries, and then at some point it could use it could use that the battery packs to assist as well. This is interesting concept. This isn't going to be on the market for a while, it looks like, but look at it. It can actually, you can remote control to maneuver it and stuff using the app.
Well, and I think this is kind of the big one here, because it's a skill being able to drive with a trailer, and it's even more of a skill to be able to back into spots, because it really sometimes is counterintuitive to how you feel the vehicle would work. And so something like this, I think, for people who are intimidated to go camping with a trailer, this is the answer. It's going to do it for you basically by letting you detach the car and pilot the vehicle on its own. What a great idea! What a great idea!
Cool.
And
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Insurance-wise, let's just say I'm remote controlling backing up my trailer, and I bump into a thing or two.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, am I driving it? Just asking, just curious.
For a friend.
Can we can I refer you to the various drone regulations across North America and the world?
Yes, I suppose.
Probably answer that question.
Well, this one says remote controlled, not automated. So currently, right now, I believe you're at fault. But give it a couple of years, blame it on Alexa.
If the trailer's parking itself, well, and that's actually an issue. I've heard that in the some of the hubbub this week talking about the liability for self-driving vehicles. Because if and who's responsible, insurance wise and all that sort of thing, if a car under full self-driving mode legally, so maybe a little bit in the future, and it gets in an accident and the driver has nothing to do with it, who's ultimately liable for that? The driver's insurance, or is it the car manufacturers and whatnot? And that's some interesting regulatory space that's going to be, I think, hashed out in the next little while. As interesting as the regulatory space ever is, of course. But yeah, just sort of interesting to see some of the other options coming into the space here. And if you check out the link in the show description, there's also the Thor Vision, actually full-on RV as well, that has the electric component too. Now, moving on to our next topic that everyone is dying to learn about is, well, have you ever wished, after 10, 15 years, and you've realized it probably doesn't make sense to wear these underwear anymore. They're more whole than fabric. Rather than simply throwing them in the garbage and adding to the landfills, or even now you can donate fabric if they're cleaned to places like Salvation Army and whatnot, and they get paid by the pound for fabrics, which can, I don't know what happens to it ultimately, recycled or not, but some manufacturers, and in this case Parade, a hip underwear startup, will recycle your old underwear from any brand for free.
At last.
Yeah, no thanks.
Right?
Why can't they do it with all kind of clothing?
Well, come on. Why should they have
just
to?
underwear?
Why should an underwear company have to recycle your blouse? I mean, they're an underwear maker. They'll take your underwear because they want to sell you more underwear, right? 150 billion pairs of underwear are produced every year. 150 billion pairs of underwear. So think of all that potential waste. Thanks, COVID. It's all commando all the time.
Yes.
Gotcha. So TerraCycle, which has been involved in a number of recycling initiatives, has partnered with Parade in this in this case here. So just there's three things we're just going to touch on very quickly, and then we'll get any thoughts from you as well. Lee 501's jeans, now made from liquefied fibers of old jeans in collaboration with Sweden's Renewcell. So life for old jeans. You don't have to, again, if they can capture figure out the reverse logistics, capture old jeans and use them, liquefy them, which is interesting, make new fabric, make new materials to craft new jeans out of. So Levi's leading the way there. And this is probably the most relevant to me, because every couple months when it comes time to throw out a tube of toothpaste, I think I always check on the local apps or websites, can I recycle this? And you never want to do that whole wish cycling thing where you put stuff that you think might be recyclable into the recycling without checking, because it can end up spoiling whole batches of recyclable materials, and it adds to the cost of sorting and makes the whole venture less economic. So after 149 years, Colgate's toothpaste tubes are finally recyclable. So they're leading the way there to help keep 1 billion tubes out of landfills every year. Again, starting with one particular line and then expanding beyond that. So 2023, they hope to have all their tubes be recyclable in the United States and globally by 2025. So out of those three, that's the one that speaks most to me, because every time you just feel so bad when we barely have any garbage anymore. It's mostly recycling, and recycling doesn't come without costs, right? I mean, there's still energy required and whatnot. We always want to think about reducing first. So, Tasia, let's start with you. Which of these speaks most to you? Is it the ganchis? Is it the jeans? Or is it the toothpaste tubes?
Ganchis.
Well, I actually have a different view on it, because I'm going to be the naysayer a little bit here. And maybe someone can correct me, but what I have been told is, when it comes to recycling, and I am a big believer of recycling, so nobody at me, okay? But I've been told that there's very specific rules to recycling. And so the toothpaste thing I would question immediately, because I can't clean out that toothpaste thing. So there's residue in there. So if there's residue in it, are they just going to chuck it out anyway when it gets to the recycling factory? Because it's with cans or bottles that have residue, you are supposed to clean those out first. And also then we could get into the whole issue of it can only be one type of plastic. So plastic water bottles are horrific because there's multiple different materials made up on that plastic water bottle. So when you recycle a plastic water bottle, it's probably not actually getting recycled. But anyway, my question is just, that would be that. I like it all in theory. Also the environmental impact of like what Levi's is doing. Like again, while it sounds really cool, first of all, jeans are probably one of the worst things you can buy or wear or throw out or whatever, because they are so hard on the environment. They take a ton of water, they take a ton of natural resources to make. So then it's like to
But they last a
liquefy.
long time if you
Sure.
good jeans. That's the thing, as opposed to fast fashion where people are throwing stuff out like twice a year, right? Like H&M
Right.
and Zara and the like.
Right. And so then the question is like, then what's the cost economically and environmentally to liquefy jeans down and try to change them into something else? So like theoretically, I love it and I feel like we're on the right track, but then the naysayer in me goes, oh shit, we're just wasting even more. No? Like, you don't think these companies are like, this is good PR? Like, what? I
It's a
guarantee
bit
you
of
my
that for
recycling
sure.
department is not going to take that Colgate toothpaste tube. I guarantee you.
Yet, but that's
Yes.
with the toothpaste tubes. The key thing is part of the issue in the past has been it's layers of plastic and aluminum and whatnot to keep it fresh and shelf stable and all that kind of stuff. So having a bit more of a homogeneous material that they make the toothpaste tubes out of enables the recycling. Now, as it stands, only about 9% of plastics are getting recycled at the moment, and you know that's so it doesn't mean 9% is going to recyclers. It just means that a whole bunch is going to recyclers, and a certain percentage of that, I've heard about 30% actually gets recycled, but your mileage may vary depending on your sources. But and worldwide, it's even less. Like in developed countries, we have the best opportunities for capturing and trying to avoid landfills where possible. But sometimes it's hard to actually do stuff with it. You end up downcycling a lot of times, and there's only so much of this stuff you can put into asphalt for roads. In some places, you're using the fibers in clothing, which is cool too. With the in the case of jeans, they're mostly made of cotton, and there's some rivets and whatnot. So it's complicated. All these things take energy, but if we can, I think a lot of us here come from the camp of like trying to minimize what we buy, focus on long-lasting quality things like with clothing products and whatnot, even when it comes to like smartphones and laptops, ones that can last us years and years, as opposed to ones that you're having to flip every 2 years because they don't work so good no more. Even doing things like replacing parts when possible and economic to do so, batteries and so forth. So it's just this kind of gradually emerging consciousness of just thinking about where this stuff goes, right? I mean, there's like tons of plastic just gets incinerated every year, and if you can get it high enough temperature, sure, that's okay, but don't get the idea that you should be burning stuff in your fireplace or your wood stove, because that's not getting hot enough to like make it less dangerous. And even regular incineration is not super great either. I mean, that's what hospitals do with their waste, but they get that stuff super duper hot. Gray, looks like you have a thought.
Yeah, so I put a link down in our private chat here. If you want to bring that up. So this is something kind of interesting. It's a company that I came across not too long ago through a connection through work. And this is Midori Bio. And they actually have both a textile and a plastic solution. The plastic one's kind of interesting because it's an additive that's put into the plastic during the manufacturing process before extrusion. And it takes the biodegrading time from 1,000 years, up to 1,000 years, to between 3 and 5 years. So this is one of these things where it's kind of a low-cost additive that can be added into plastic. And, from all intents and purposes, the science is in. They've actually done studies on this. It works. It basically just becomes soil in the landfill. So it still gets sent to a landfill, but it turns into soil far more rapidly. And, it's kind of funny. I hear the word liquefy, and immediately that sounds horrifying. Like it sounds like the soylent green of jeans.
It's something that happens to organs when you get a bad
liquefy your jeans. Oh God, like that's a James Bond villain in a nutshell right there. But I'll take what we can get here. I've had a pair of Adriano Goldschmidt jeans for 10, 12 years, pardon me, and I've repaired them 4 times because, again, good quality material, and it does take a lot to make these things. So I wanted them to stick around, but they've kind of hit end of life at this point. So if I could liquefy those to make new jeans, I'd definitely do it.
On a similar note, just this past weekend, it helps if you have people in your household that are resourceful. But we have a couch that we've had for 16 years or so, and the cushions were starting to get a little saggy, and you got the butt ruts going on in there, and even the back cushions were not doing so great. But we managed to get some, rather than just simply throwing it in the ocean and getting a new couch, which is, we're not made of money. Managed to get the seat cushions restuffed. We repurposed one of the old ones into a dog bed because that one was getting less usable over time. And my wife Stephanie added additional filling to the back cushions as well, which really helped that out. So there's a lot of things that you can do to extend the life of your especially your big purchases like that, rather than just simply like tossing them and going, and it's just way cheaper that way too.
We will rebuild you faster, stronger.
Exactly. So Will's got something to add to this thing.
Yeah, this is a Will story. Vaguely related, recycling. The other day we actually had a gutter cleaner come over because with all the heavy rain, some of our gutters were getting backed up. We didn't do it at the beginning of the year. We did it last year. But it was just, and especially with all that, atmospheric river, just all this rain going all over the place. So they cleaned out the gutters. I went out to go do the compost this morning, and I moved the compost bin, and it was so heavy. And so I moved it, and I opened it, and I just see this black biomass, and I'm like, what is this? And
is Tasha Yar in there?
Holding my nose at first. I'm like, oh, it's probably from the gutter cleaners. But I'm like, what happened here? So, yes, maybe ask people before you deposit the gutter cleaning into their compost. At least let them know.
Luckily, got to before it became sentient.
Yes.
All right, compost it is.
Moving right along.
Speaking of compost, Netflix has tweaked their UI. That's a reference to the quality of 80% of stuff that they crank out.
Ooh, emotional damage.
Netflix's Continue Watching Queue gets a huge quality of life improvement. Users can now delete all those half-finished shows from their screens. Now, this is something that I encounter. There's a similar sort of thing on the Apple TV where you have your Up Next queue. But luckily, with that, you're able to remove stuff from Up Next, mark shows as watched, et cetera, and get them out of your life. But others are not as forgiving. But Netflix has recently made it so if there's a show you've watched a couple episodes of, and you're like, it's not for me anymore, you will soon be able to torpedo it from your Up Next queue.
Sweet.
That's all.
This is actually a feature that Crave has, but it's not done through the app. You have to go to the website to do it, and that is not great. So, only for you, Netflix.
Only for you. All right. So, quick round of picks and projects before we go here. What's Will?
Yes.
Will.
So this is one that I watched just the other night.
Mm-hmm.
Watched a couple comedy shows the other day. What's the guy who speaks to himself? I saw that the new one from what's his name? It's killing me. I'll think of it in a sec. Jim Gaffigan. I saw the latest Jim Gaffigan one. That was really great. But the other one was the Aziz Ansari. I think it just came out a week or two ago. It's a shorter one. It's actually nice for a quick kind of thing. It's also one of these fun things. I know we are in the COVID era. They did say that everyone was, had been vaccinated in the room and all that kind of stuff. But it was kind of fun to see a small comedy club. He just sat in on a set. It's where he one of the places where he cut his teeth and got started. And it just felt kind of nice and intimate. It wasn't a 2-hour special, but it was just a nice little hit. He said some very interesting things. I don't want to ruin anything, obviously, about the COVID era and a few other things. And yeah, it was very entertaining. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. So that is available on Netflix. Aziz Ansari, duly uncanceled or recovered from being canceled due to sex crime misunderstanding. Louis C.K., he's working on it as well too. I think in his
No,
special-
do
I
not
haven't-
compare those two.
no, they're very, very, very different. But as someone who has had issues, from what I understand, there is a Louis C.K. special out, and just the entire backdrop is just a big sign that says "I'm sorry." But I've not seen that myself, so I'm
Oh,
not
sure. That'll
But
just make everything better.
I mean, there was. You're not gonna find me sticking up for Louis C.K. Hollywood puts worms in people's brains, but anyhow. So Tasia does not have a pick for us this week because she was too busy gallivanting across the continent and working. But you're gonna have to have two for us next time. How about you, Greg?
Oh no.
I did a little bit of work a couple of weeks ago on a blog about the Metaverse. We've got a lot of people asking
No,
about
this isn't your project. This is your pick.
Oh, my pick,
of the
my
week.
pick. Sorry, go.
That's all right.
Tick, tick, boom.
Tick,
So
boom.
my pick last week or the week before was Encanto, which just the music in it is absolutely phenomenal. Lin-Manuel Miranda did the music in Encanto, and this is actually his directorial debut. He saw Tick, Tick, Boom just after September the 11th, and it actually really motivated him to move into musical theater. It's the story of Jonathan Larson, who is a composer who worked incredibly hard on a musical that was never produced, but the reaction from that spurred on the rest of his career, which unfortunately was dramatically short. He was one of he was the driving force behind Rent, and passed away the night before the preview performance off Broadway from an aortic aneurysm. So throughout the entire thing, this common knowledge, it's not a spoiler here, but it's through the entire thing, this is sort of tinged with tragedy. But the idea of this whole thing of time and how much time do we have left, there are a number of different threads to the story. It's a really, really beautiful piece of work. It's marvelously directed, and it features Andrew Garfield, who we've seen in so many good things. Spider-Man most recently, but Hacksaw Ridge he was nominated for an Oscar for, and just does a phenomenal job here. And I realize that I keep saying whenever I have these picks, I was in tears. I cry a lot. It's a pandemic. So Tick, Tick, Boom. It's on Netflix. Go check it out.
All right, good stuff. My pick of the week is not media related. It's actually, I accidentally bought another car.
What?
And I've been doing some bit of research the last couple of months since we've been babysitting my dad's 2013 Toyota Highlander hybrid that he got secondhand a year or two ago, and been really enjoying the whole hybrid life. And I may have described before how there's a big screen and you can see the energy flow from the battery to the wheels, and from the gas engine to the wheels, and then energy back to the batteries. It's like, staring at the screen while you're supposed to be paying attention to the road. It's almost like a video game with deadly consequences. However, just kind of really starting to understand the appeal there, and the whole notion of just trying to use gas as little as possible, as we've been talking for almost the last year on the show here, as we kind of move away from hydrocarbons and more electricity, especially where there are clean-ish sources of electricity. You don't want to burn coal to run a Tesla, right? It kind of doesn't really do a whole lot of good at that point. So when we've got abundant hydroelectric power here, hybrids or pure EVs, battery electric vehicles can be an interesting option. So been paying attention to the used market because, well, both new cars are scarce thanks to global supply chain, chip shortages and the like. Used car prices have gone bonkers in the last year or so, but paying attention and getting a sense of what the market's like, managed to find a really good deal on a 2016, speaking of Kia, 2016 Kia Soul EV, which has the vibe almost of like one of those little boxy Scions or a Honda Element. Actually pretty spacious on the inside. We got one luxury model with the huge panoramic moonroof and in titanium silver. It's got all mod cons, the heated and cooled front seats, heated rear seats, heated steering wheel. I feel like a Rockefeller. It's crazy.
Wow.
Got an amazing deal on it. It had been one accident, but had it thoroughly inspected by our dealership, which happens to be a Kia dealership, which used to be a Mitsubishi dealership. Long story, but yeah, and it's only got 150-ish kilometer range. In the winter, it's closer to 100 kilometers, but like 95% of our driving are short trips. Yeah, just mostly in the North Shore, sometimes downtown. This thing could even get out to South Surrey and back to see the in-laws, no problem. So we're still going to hang on to our one of our other vehicles that's internal combustion engine for longer trips, or and so on. But get rid of one. Eventually, give my dad's car back to him when he's back in town. But so we kind of skipped the whole hybrid thing aside from this little caretaking, and have dived right into EV Town. A great way to test the waters in an affordable way. So
Awesome.
That's my pick of the week.
Nicely done.
Congrats.
Nicely done.
Yeah, a little bit more than the cost of a month of Netflix, unfortunately. But, so quick projects. Will, you've got a project for us to talk about?
Yeah, coming up soon. Unfortunately, it's not released, but it has been announced. I think they're just encoding it to the various appy type things. So it's another looper. I collabed with a couple other very talented producers, a guy named Function out of Colorado, and another guy named Rocksteady out of Germany. Sounds like a very German name. So they're super great producers. I'm fans of both of them, and I was just talking to one of them, and what's the term? He slid into my DMs.
Yeah.
So I was talking to him a little bit before Christmas, and looks like that's going to be coming out soon. So hopefully this week.
So it's a collab with a couple of this. What's the style of the beast this time around?
I think it's going to be a lot of hip hoppy type beats and some trap. The gimme the loop is and the picture there is a reference to a Notorious B.I.G. song. So I'm looking forward to that. It's been a while in the making, and should be fun.
And when it goes live, it will be on Table Beats.
Table Beats and Tabeless.net as well.
Good stuff. And check the app for that and search Will's username in the library. And it's Molotov, MOLOTOV. Gray, you are able to share something with us this week. That's exciting.
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of work with Metaverse stuff, and we've had a lot of clients who've been reaching out to us about the Metaverse. We did a big presentation last week talking about some possibilities in the Metaverse. So this is sort of a Metaverse 101, what you need to know, things about what the Metaverse is bringing to us. And so we've actually already started on some applications for some clients, which is pretty cool. But my favorite thing out of this was actually a bit of an accident, which is I was kind of thinking, we're going to be doing webinars in the Metaverse, and that's got to be a metanar. And it turns out it doesn't look like anybody else is using this term. So I immediately snapped at the domain names. So that actually redirects to this article now. And unfortunately, I've now foisted the word metanar on the world. And I'm sorry, kind of. So if you're interested about Metaverse stuff, you can take a look at the article. And we've actually got a few more coming talking about other things in the Metaverse, Web3, and how NFTs might actually be able to play into things that are more than just collecting someone's JPEG.
As long as there's no meta
could have said sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Welcome to the Metanar.
Good stuff. We look forward to seeing the word metanar everywhere sometime soon. And if you could make an NFT out of that, of the coining of that, and then
I can. I can.
Deja, you've got a new video for us, like clockwork this week.
As always, this one are my picks for like the best hidden Google Messages features. So I was digging into the Pixel 6 Pro a bit more, and I was like, I probably should talk about messages a little bit. So I did. So I would just give a little taste. My favorite feature is the ability to schedule messages. Beautiful. That's kind of fun. But for the rest, you'll have to watch the video.
And Google Messages is the default messaging app on Android, correct?
Correct.
So you can delete all the other ones that they've tried, Allo and Duo and Hangouts and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Messages is where it's at.
Yeah.
Awesome. I hope that Apple takes note and adds scheduling to
Oh,
to iMessage, or sorry, the Messages app.
yeah.
So when it's the middle of the night and you really want to get a thought out of your head and send it to someone. You would hope that most people have Do Not Disturb turned on, but you never know. I think once
A
I kind
lot
of
don't.
I think I annoyed Graham
Yeah.
once when I sent him something in the middle of the night a couple of years ago. And it's just like,
You're on
I
my
was like,
VIP
dude.
list. So
Stephanie got mad at me for texting you once late at night, Tristan.
you push through the DND because you're on my VIP list just in case.
Oh, I
somebody-
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Break on through.
Yeah.
One other little bit of trivia that I forgot to mention with the Kia Soul EV acquisition is that, again, I researched this ahead of time, and luckily it did come to pass. Yeah, on Sunday, I was doing some stuff, doing some downloading, putting some stuff on an SD card, stick it in the thing, upgraded the nav system to now feature Apple CarPlay.
No way. That's
On
awesome.
a 2016 model. So thank you, Kia. I mean, they've come a long way, and to have something that that they was able to retrofit years, 5-6 years old. Pretty stoked about that. So there we go. So if you want to find out about Tasia's last video, you can go to youtube.com/Tasia Custodi or TasiaCustodi.com. Gray's article is at agencyblink.com, and Will's Beats are at tablebeats.com and tableist.net, and you can search for the app in the iOS and Android. There's an Android version in the Google Play Store.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, Table Beats. I think it's not as up to date as the Apple version, but there is a version.
No comment. All right. Don't want to make too many enemies. If you want to find out more about Momentous, again, find us at momentous.tv, facebook.com/momentous.tv, twitter.com/momentous.tv, instagram.com/momentous.tv, on YouTube. Search my name, look for the Momentous playlist there to find our channel, and like, subscribe, smash all the things.
And all the people.
William, Tasia, Gray, and all of you out there in the metaverse. Kill me now. Well, I hope your week is truly momentous. Oh, damn it! One more time.